Welcome to The Secret Truth. I'm George Butler. We've got a lot of cover this morning. This is a Secret Truth show, the morning edition, and Charlotte is off today. We've got quite a bit happening out there in this country, and it's very disturbing about some of the narratives that are being floated to the public. We have this just recent, these committee meetings with Adam Schiff, and those people are expressing a point that, and then you've got Nancy Pelosi that's come out with, we're going to meet together and we've got this impeachment process underway and so forth. And so that's what we're going to cover somewhat this morning. Rudy Giuliani has been going on talk radio and talk shows in the last few days, expressing a point and bringing us information that we didn't have before. He was called in by our State Department under Trump to meet with some of our President Zelensky's emissaries and advisors. I think one of the first meetings, and you can look at this in the complaint that was lodged in this series of whistleblower complaints. There's copies you can download, and you can start reading some of this and get some background information. The conclusions in the complaint aren't always true or reasonable or even accurate, so you got to be careful in reading this. The chief executive officer, which Trump is, has the power and the right to talk to anyone on behalf of the United States interest anywhere in the world. So that is being left out at times in this whole, you could say, debate. We've got a debate going on here between two factions here. We've got the factions that are the Trump supporters, and then we've got a faction that is the, you could say, the holdovers from the Obama and the Hillary supporters and so forth. The Congress itself, because of the last midterms, has changed over to control by the Democrats. So they are controlling all the committees now that are investigating different, you could say, factions and different, there are different factions within both parties that are beginning to concentrate on different aspects of this overall scandal that has just come to be made publicly by this whistleblower. There's not only the whistleblower data that you can download documents, but also the transcript, they're calling it, of the call that President Trump made to Zelensky, who is the president of Ukraine. The problem with this thing is that it goes further back in time than just this particular ensuing scandal that's ongoing at this time. Ukraine has been being struggled over between factions, and even there were the administration, Obama's administration, is accused, and there are allegations that he went in and destroyed a duly elected president, okay, and overthrew that, and the Maiden massacre episode, you could say. So that's one allegation too. There's other allegations that Putin was trying to reconsolidate Russia and some of their interests, and there were allegations that Western interests were going in and plundering some of these and so forth. I think there's some spillover, and there's some truth to all of these different angles. What we have right now is that we have the president who, in the Constitution, has what they call a take care clause. The take care clause in the Constitution states that he can talk to anyone. He is the chief executive officer. So the allegations that are being made against him as to whether or not it was inappropriate to talk about different people, and the Bidens in particular, was inappropriate, was he's able to bring them up if he wishes to. There are some that have expressed opinions that it was not wise and it was not prudent to do that at the time. We have this to a level now to where Pelosi has announced that there's an impeachment process underway, and the latest news this morning is that they intend to have a vote on impeachment articles by the end of October. So the way that it works is that the House has to vote impeachment articles, and then that moves to the Senate. And at the Senate, there's actually a trial that's held. The Supreme Court justice, head of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice, the Supreme Court acts as a judge. The 100 senators are acting as a jury, you could say, for the proceedings. And then they'll vote. They have to have at least 67 votes, which would be more than 2/3 vote in the Senate for conviction. What is developing now is very dangerous. And what we're seeing now is a consolidation and a coalescing of a mentality. I was looking at Drudge today, and some of the click-offs that he has on there are really commentary against President Trump. So you've got to look at this whole thing as objectively as possible. The Democrats want him out. This is a narrative, though, that is beginning to take hold in the public. And I just don't know, with all the media being controlled by the left, by the Democratic left, that want him gone, then I'm not optimistic that we're going to affect a good outcome. In the Senate, people are expressing different opinions, that if the Republican senators vote him out or convict him, then they're political suicide for them. But the problem about this, and the thing to see, and this is what's important to view, is that both sides really didn't want him to start with. The insiders did the same thing to the Tea Party, if you'll remember them. When the Tea Party beginning to get traction as far as political power goes, they began to both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, started moving against, the Tea Party people. And today, if you go out there and try to find a Tea Party group, they're all broken up. In San Antonio, I had privy to some of those earlier meetings. I think we were there with Glenn Beck and others for about a 15,000 member Tea Party meeting in front of the Alamo. But if you'll look at the Tea Party group today, they've been broken up and diluted in power. And that's where Trump comes in as a surprise winner, because he went to the correct state to get the electoral votes and did win the election. The Democrats have been very hateful that he did win. Now, he's not the average person that's easy to get along with, and he's insulting at times. His ego is overbearing, and so this does not serve him well. I said way back several years ago that Trump's administration would be either successful or not based upon his control of his ego. And that's where I see his ego drives him to do some things, and he's done some. I see him 50-50. I like some of the things that he's done for the country. Some of the other things are subtractive because of his ego, and he does insult people. He'll say he's not consistent at times. He'll say things that are good about someone, and in the next phrase or a few minutes or hours later, he'll demean them. See, so he's not consistent at times. What we're seeing now is the Democrats are ongoing. They're going to focus in on just the Ukraine conversations that President Trump had with Zelensky, and that might be enough to get the votes in the House. They already have a majority of Democrat representatives in the House, so they need 218, which is just a bare majority to get the articles voted on and then passed over to the Senate, where the actual trial would take place. What might be surprising in this particular situation is that Trump could easily be voted down in the Senate and be convicted, because the real deep state, they don't want him. There's news now that the whistleblower was a possible CIA agent that went in undercover or whatever in the White House, and then he got this second and third hand, most of the evidence that he has in his complaint. It was not first-hand knowledge of listening to the call himself. So this is second and third hand, it's hearsay, which would not even be allowed in a court of law, but it is being allowed now because there are many holdovers that are anti-Trump, never Trumpers in there, that don't want Trump to continue as president. So I believe that the Democrats have surmised or concluded that that Trump would be reelected, and so this is the path to get him out before the re-election. Then they don't have to contend with him on the election. But anyway, that's the way I see it now. The country is in a dangerous position. We've got to just sit there and try to bring forth all the fact that we can. Giuliani's investigations, John Solomon, Sarah Carter, Sean Hannity has come up with some very valuable insights also. And so if we concentrate on that, then tonight, this is Friday, and on the 27th of September, tonight there's supposed to be some more additional information brought forth on Sean Hannity's show by John Solomon. He has 540 pages of documents, he said, that shed light on and are very convincing, and are evidence towards the Biden's wrongdoing in Ukraine. And I think those will be presented to. Oh, there is one little facet of this that Rudy Giuliani found. The reason why the State Department called on Rudy Giuliani to go over and start meeting with President Zelensky's emissary or aides was that the Ukrainian government had been trying for a year and a half to present evidence of wrongdoing of the Bidens to the FBI, our FBI, and our Department of Justice. They were turned aside, they were ignored, and it was not accepted. So what the Ukrainians finally did was contact our State Department and get Rudy to come over and start talking to them and bringing forth some of this evidence. There's also an let's see what I want to say here, OCCRP. If you'll read the complaint, the whistleblower complaint, there's some bottom notes there, some end notes on some of the pages. And there's an OCCRP, which bemoans the fact that much of the allegations against the Bidens was fictitious, or it was unwarranted, or was not true. The OCCRP is backed by George Soros. And so George Soros in the past has been behind many of these color revolutions, and we believe that under Obama, a color revolution occurred in the Ukraine, and an overthrow of a duly elected Democratic president was overthrown by the Obama administration. And I believe that's what we're going to find in the end. This thing is bigger than just Biden and them going over and intimidating the Ukrainians with some aid. But that was a recording on the Council for Foreign Relations that Joe Biden made. And so it was self-incriminating to a large extent, and you can find that on YouTube today. But anyway, this is George Butler signing off. Thank you for viewing the Secret Truth Show, Morning Edition. Charlotte will be back with us in the following editions, but thank you so very much for viewing this episode. And I can't make it any more important than before, is that the country is in the throes of a struggle for truth, and we're either going to default to the collective element in the country, which will move us even further to the left, or we're going to hold on to barely what we have existing now. So anyway, thank you for viewing this broadcast, and this is George Butler, the Secret Truth Show, Morning Edition. Thank you for being with us this morning. Bye-bye.